Boston could actually make a pretty good movie. It certainly makes for a good read. With us now, Paul Sherman, the author of the new book that chronicles Beantown movie making. It's called Big Screen Boston, From Mystery Street to the Departed and Beyond. Welcome, Paul.
Hi, Sarah.
You know, this is really a great little book. It tells a lot of little stories that people don't know about Boston movie making. For instance, back in the day, we were kind of a jinx to Hollywood, weren't we? I mean, there was a story on the Brinks job. Tell that story.
The Brinks job is kind of the most notorious relationship between Boston and Hollywood. There are lots of folklore tales about, because the movie was set in the 50s but filmed in the 70s, about staff going around to people in the North End and saying, you have to take down your air conditioner, but we'll give you $50. And then the next day, everybody in the neighborhood would have an air conditioner or a box spray painted to look like an air conditioner, and they would have their hand out for $50.
So they could get the $50.
That was not a good thing for Hollywood. And there were all sorts of stories. There was a robbery of some of the film stock. So the Brinks job really soured Hollywood on coming to Boston.
And for many years, we heard the lore about the Teamsters Union creating problems with Hollywood. Are these stories myth, or was some truth to that?
Well, the stories are certainly out there, and the important thing is that, at least by reputation, the Northeastern Teamsters were not very friendly to Hollywood, and Hollywood did not like to deal with them, and that was just one more thing that, like winter weather, that kept Hollywood from coming to Boston more often.
Well, now things have certainly changed here, but again, the stories that you bring up certainly talk about the long road of movie making in Boston. And I know that you like to really talk about one of your favorite films, which I have never seen, starring Robert Mitchum, The Friends of Eddie Coyle.
Right.
Why is this your favorite Boston-based film?
Well, I think it's kind of the grandfather of the Boston neighborhood movies that have been coming out lately, like Mystic River and The Departed and Gone Baby Gone. It's based on a book by George V. Higgins, who was a prosecutor turned novelist, and it just has a really authentic flavor of Boston and how people talk and the locations. I say in the book that it's the first movie shot in Boston that wasn't afraid to not be pretty. It's just really gritty and grimy, and it just really strikes a note, and Robert Mitchum does a great performance, does a good accent, just bears himself just like a Bostonian, and it's just a really amazing movie.
But it's not available on video?
Never come out on video. I don't know why.
Well, we found clips on YouTube that were running.
Right, you can find the trailer on YouTube. Go watch it, though it might only frustrate you that you can't actually see the movie.
Oh my gosh, maybe you'll create a new groundswell. Get this
so.
out on video, Paul.
I think there's an online petition that's been out there for several years.
One of the great Boston crime writers, Dennis Lehane, has penned many books, and they've turned into movies. Mystic River, Gone Baby Gone. Your favorite of the two?
Definitely Gone Baby Gone. I'm not a big Mystic River fan. I think it's really drab. And if you compare it with Gone Baby Gone had a real vitality and this sarcastic sense of humor that is very Bostonian that was missing from Mystic River.
Maybe because Ben Affleck was directing and Clint Eastwood is not from Boston and he was directing Mystic River.
I think, you know, all other factors being equal, if there's a movie where somebody, the writer, a star like Dennis Leary in the case of Monument Ave is involved, it's always going to have that extra something that a movie that doesn't have anybody local involved usually doesn't have.
Speaking of Ben Affleck, you have a movie. What is it called that when he's 8 years old? What is his movie debut that you talk about?
His movie debut was in a film called The Dark End of the Street, which was written and directed by Jan Eagleson, who's the person who almost single-handedly started independent filmmaking in Boston with a movie called Billy the Lowlands in 1979. It was the first attempt to do sustained filmmaking in Boston, to say we're going to make movies in Boston, they're going to be gritty, they're going to star locals, they're going to be blue-collar stories. And Dark End of the Street, little Ben Affleck
blonde Ben Affleck.
Little blonde 8-year-old Ben Affleck plays the little brother of the heroine, and he's in and out in 3 different scenes, but it's him.
Yeah.
And, you know, he went on to become a child actor on PBS, and
Oh yeah, exactly,
And
the rest, exactly, yeah. And also does a great Boston accent. That's another aspect of your book, the worst and best Boston accents. I think Ben and Matt Damon and Mark Wahlberg are all up there naturally. Who gave the worst Boston accent in your mind in films?
Well, I think the worst Boston accent is Ali Sheedy in a movie called The Autumn Heart, which is not a well-known movie. It's just a so-so movie, but she is just screeching throughout the whole movie.
Oh my gosh!
That's the main thing. You know, Diane Lane does much the same thing in The Perfect Storm, and Anne Bancroft is in one scene in Malice, and she is right up there with those two.
All right. Well, the book again is Big Screen Boston. Paul, thanks so much. And my best Boston accent. You're wicked smart. Thanks so much. It really is a great read.
Up next on Backstage. She is an idol in the making right here in Massachusetts. Megan Nelligan performs in our studio right after this.